Ah, the old Walmart run. We're getting stocked up because we hear the mosquitoes are crazy. And last year I learned my lesson about chalking boat trailers. Almost had one run away on me. So this year we've got 4 chalks for the boat trailer, and then obviously 4 chalks for the RV too. Figured I'd show you guys what I'm doing right now. These L brackets are part of the equalizer weight distribution / sway control system, the E4. And when the guy mounted them on to the A-frame at the dealership in Kelso, Washington, I think he mounted them 1 notch too low because I have a lot of sag in the back of the truck on the rear axle. It's a lot of tongue weight forcing down, so it needs more weight distributed. So right now what I'm doing is trying to bust these loose, and I did the other side already, and I'm going to move this up 1 to increase the weight distribution, basically taking more weight off of the back of the truck and putting more weight on the front. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay, moved 1 notch up. Should provide more weight distribution, less weight on the back axle, more weight on the front. And got to tighten these up to torque of 75 feet per square, or 75 pounds per square foot. If you hear that click, that means it's there. The torque wrench here set to 75. So hopefully this will fix the problem of the rear sag, or at least help with it. I'll hook it up and see how it goes now. Dirty and heavy, just like me. How do you like this hat? I kept it from 2020 when I worked up at Lava Lake. Same company this year, so get to keep it, and super cool. Anyway, day before departure here. Wish I would have brought my sunglasses out here. I want to show you a couple things. Here is the electric tongue jack for the trailer. And if you don't have a cover for yours, if you have a travel trailer, it's a good idea because this is all plastic. Protect that from the UV, the ultraviolet rays from the sun, because that'll quickly break it down, just like tires or anything else. Another note, so I'm figuring out the weight distribution system again here. Because at the factory, or at the outlet, whatever, the dealership, I don't think they installed it quite right, because I've got a lot of rear truck sag from the tongue weight of the trailer. So I lifted these L brackets. I'll show you those real quick. I lifted these up right here 1 notch. The other thing I'm addressing today, I had Verizon give me a call and just say, hey, just making sure you're satisfied with your business account or whatever. And I said, yeah, well, why I got you, get me tech support and I'll ask a question. So they told me that the gateway, which is the internet thing that they give you that runs on 5G, is it won't work with a cell phone booster. That's what they said. Now I wonder, I did a little research, if it goes on the C band, it might, and then I guess there's 2 different types of modulation for the signal, TDD and FDD or something like that. So they were trying to sell me some other device. One was like $200 a month or something. I'm like, oh, I got Starlink. That's the same price. I don't need that. But I'm hoping that they're just lying to me because they wanted to sell something. We'll connect this cell phone booster up that's going to go on that mast right there. And I'm hoping that the gateway will see beneficial results from it. If it's on the same frequencies, I don't see why it wouldn't. Now, they did say it doesn't connect directly to the cellular network, so it could be on a different band or something like that. But my mind is, you're still getting a radio signal from tower to device. And I doubt that they have many bands that they're running separate for cell phones versus gateways. So we'll see how it works up there, and hopefully it'll work just fine. If not, fail safe is Starlink, but that's $200 a month. So more on that as we continue. That's what I got so far. I'm going to get ready to hitch And like I said, this cover is awesome. I'm going to go ahead, and you don't even have to really take it off. If you remember where your buttons are in there. See, I'm just raised the trailer up like that. Don't even have to take the sucker off. You wouldn't need to unless you needed light. It has a little light on it. So I'm getting ready to get hitched up. Got to pull the slide in, put the steps away. We're going to pull it around front, take a look at our sagging issue and see if that's been mitigated at all. I'm hoping it has. And then we got to load up, and we're getting ready to where all we got to do is throw some last minute items in the truck and in the RV tomorrow before we set off at to Crescent Lake. And tomorrow, man, we get camp set up. Take about a day probably, because we're going to be there all season. So we're going to have a nice semi-permanent setup. And then the following day, Wednesday, we'll actually be on the clock, raking campsites and cleaning up, getting ready for the opening of the season, which happens on Friday. Wish us luck. We're feeling a little overwhelmed and got some jitters and some anxiety, as is normal for opening campground for the season. We've done it 2 other times, so we know what to expect. It'll all be good. But we suspect that maybe they didn't give us enough hours for that big of a campground. We shall see. And they sound like they're pretty stringent on you work your hours and no more. So we'll see. We may have to have that discussion if it turns to be an issue. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. But just from experience, looking at 47 sites and 6 or 8 vault toilets in the heat of summer, I think it's going to take more than 20 hours a week apiece to manage that. But we'll see. All right, I'm going to get busy hooking up. Well, I learned something. Angie's not going to be pleased about it. Since installing this screen protecting grate, there's a little less clearance in here, and you know, if you can see back there, that's where this used to go, but it doesn't have that anymore. So when you go to close the door, there is enough room for it to close, but what happens is all of this debris that's on the steps, because it gets slammed up against it, comes flying out into the trailer. And Angie just mopped it. Not going to be pleased. Okay, so one thing that needs to be addressed before we go, and we always check our tires before we go anywhere, right? This one, it's obvious to me that it has a very slow leak. After about a week, it's noticeable. Now the RV's been sitting here for more than a week, so you can tell that it's a little lower than the other one there. I got my little 12-volt air compressor, and it's hooked up to the car battery. I could easily hook up to the trailer battery, but I'd have to unbutton all that, and it's easier just to pop the hood. So I parked the truck over here, and we're gonna get that inflated. I believe the PSI required on the sidewall is 65, and that shouldn't change much overnight, because like I said, it's a super slow leak. But before we get going, I'll double check and make sure that that's okay. All right, here we go. 65 is the preferred setting. One thing I've noticed though is that as you try to get that off, you lose about 5 psi, just because that screws onto the valve stem. So I go to 70, and then I start to unscrew it, and then I check it with the tire gauge, and I'm typically right around 65 or so. Little things humming along. One thing to note about these little 12-volt compressors, they get really hot. Ask me how I know. Okay, new RVers, really good idea to keep your tire gauge real handy, like that. This is the driver's side door. My tire gauge is there with an ever constant reminder to check my tires. In this, we have all of our discount passes for national forests, state parks. We also have a checkbook in here because most campgrounds, national forest campgrounds, don't have any cards. They don't take cards, right? So good idea to carry a checkbook. The only time we really write checks is to a campground, or even some cash in there, if you like. And yeah, that just holds all of our upcoming trip information. Really good idea to have something like that too. And then even a handy dandy calculator on that thing so we can calculate our discounts as we move along. Pretty dang close. That's like 66, 67. Perfect. We'll call it good. This tire is ready to go. I'll check it before we leave in the morning. Well, maybe you're fortunate enough not to know what this is. If you are not, then you know exactly what this is. And you know exactly what it's used for. All right, let's break them in easy. This is to haul gray water and black water to a dump station, or if you're a campground host, to a vault toilet. Now, they say they're gonna have a honey wagon, a truck, come out and pump us out once a week. But we're taking this along just so if we fill it up in 4 days or something like that, we don't have to wait for them to schedule an appointment, or if the truck breaks down or whatever. It's an emergency backup sort of thing. And the first camping job we ever had, they told us the same thing. And it turns out the maintenance guy showed up with one of these and said, "Here you go." And we made 3 or 4 trips to the vault toilet to dump out our waste. So, now here's the interesting thing. This part right here used to hang on the ladder of our old travel trailer. Now these newer travel trailers don't have a ladder fixed to the back. Even though the roof is still walkable, it's not like an ultralight where you can't walk on the roof. But nowadays we have the Lippert on the go ladder, which is supposed to be safer. It mounts to that little thing right there and comes down at an angle. But we've lost our mount. So for anybody that's figured out how to carry this thing with relative ease, I'd be curious what mounting solutions you have. Because I'd really prefer not to put it inside, considering what it generally holds. And it takes up a lot of room in the truck bed, so not sure how we're getting it up there, but we'll figure it out. Unfortunately, for the time being, that's exactly where it's gonna go, right in the truck bed. You know, I sure am glad that I decided to do this today instead of tomorrow morning. Remember that mast that I just put on here? Well, it was in the way of the sway bar, the weight distribution bar. So I had to cut them off. Fortunately, my neighbor let me borrow a hacksaw to do it. Now we're getting clearance and we're good to go, but that would have been stressful trying to figure that out on the day of departure. Well, I did mitigate a little bit of that squat. If you can tell by the setup now, before it was squatting way more, so I'm much more pleased with this. It's looking better.
You guys are gonna be put to work. Uh-oh.
Well, the day is finally here. We're getting ready to depart. Everything is ready to go. We'll come back for the boat after the guy comes and fixes the bearings on it. Obviously, we can't tow the boat and the trailer at the same time, so I have to make a second trip anyway. But fortunately, it's only an hour and a half. Let's go say hi to Angie. One last look around the house. We're going to rent the house out as our Airbnb while we're gone. Long term, 30 days or more. Say hi, Angie.
Hi.
We're excited. And also a little bit anxious because, you know, back to work. So, but we're excited about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you guys in the woods. We made it. We're in the woods. Got her parked. electric was working. We had to, when I first plugged in the surge protector, I didn't get any power, and that was a fear of mine. I was afraid that they'd be like, oh, sorry, no power for the summer. But fortunately, it was just a matter of finding the breaker box in the campground next to one of the yurts. Flip that thing on for the host site, and we've got power, which is going to make for a much more enjoyable summer. We won't take job without power. We did that once and learned our lesson. Anyway, pretty cool site. We got her all leveled out and ready to rock and roll, ready to get this thing set up.